Hi, everybody from sunny California. It's about 8 o'clock here right now. I'm super excited to be recording this for the Girl Code Summit. You can tell I clearly haven't done my coffee yet, but thank you again for having me. First and foremost, I hope everybody is staying safe out there in this really unprecedented time. It is an interesting time period. I was thinking about how I'm busier now more than ever. So happy to share a little tips and tricks around resumes, your CV, and specifically around interviewing and getting a job at Facebook. So let me start off with an introduction. My name is Alison Mackay. I have been in recruiting in the Bay Area and technical recruiting for 6 years coming up. Time flies when you're having fun. I specifically have worked in agencies, so third-party staffing firms, always working on software engineering type of roles. And then I have been with Facebook for about a little over 4 years. So specifically the role that I am at Facebook, I'm a technical recruiter. I support our data center strategy team. So the teams that I support are really at the forefront of our data center strategy, where we build our data centers, how we build them all on 100% clean and renewable energy, because we do, and the analytics supporting the data center life cycle. So I was asked today to talk a little bit about hiring and getting a job at Facebook, which I am so blessed to work for one of the top companies in the world. Especially now more than ever, we're seeing how many people are using our family of apps and how impactful it has been in the world. And so what I thought I would do is just kind of talk to you guys. I'm pretty honest and open, so just kind of talk to you guys about some tips, a little bit more about the job description, then of course specifically as it relates to Facebook. So wanted to kind of jump off and talk about really what it takes to stand out during this online job search process. I mean, now more than ever is a very impactful time to be looking for a job. If you're in a job right now and you're worried about what's going to happen to your company, if you've been furloughed, if you've been laid off, these are, again, unprecedented times. And it's going to really impact everything as it relates to the job search. So when I think about standing out online, your presence matters online. And what that means is that, yes, a resume is very important, but also is your LinkedIn profile, your personal brand, if you've built your website, your GitHub account, what you type in on Stack Overflow. So there's so many different avenues where recruiters can look at your background and start to create a story about yourself. So if I'm a recruiter and I'm creating a story and you're a job seeker, wouldn't you want to create the story for yourself? What I mean by that is you control the information you're sharing. And it's a great opportunity for you to kind of showcase who you are online by just being open and honest and sharing what you want to share. And so I think really LinkedIn is a great tool for you to leverage. Of course, it's kind of like a CV or a resume, but it also gives you an opportunity to add a little bit more flavor, share a little more about your projects. So if you have questions about LinkedIn specifically, I love that tool. And if you add me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to kind of deep dive more into that. So let's jump into resume, or I know CV is another way we like to call it, some resume tips. So when we think about the resume, there's so many different rumors out there about what to do, what not to do, how it should look, all of that. I wanted to just kind of nip a couple of those rumors in the bud and give some tips around what makes a great resume. So first things first, everybody's got different experience, and that also means length of experience. So when I think about the length of a resume, typically we're told make it 1 page. Well, if all of your experience doesn't fit on 1 page, that's totally fine. Feel free to make it as long as you'd like, but I will tell you, if it's 8 pages, I probably won't read it. So take as much information as you need. I've got a great tool here. It's called Rip the Resume. It was written by my friend, Torrin Ellis. I swear I'm not sponsored or anything. It's just really easy to read and has some really great tips about how to make sure that your resume reads well, specifically around how you structure the sentences. A couple of things with the resume that historically have been on there, but I like to make sure that I share that you should remove your address. This when we had our addresses on our resumes, I'm assuming it was when we had to send it out to companies via snail mail. We don't do that anymore. So having your first and last name, your email address, your LinkedIn profile, and your phone number, that's good enough. Another thing to remove is your objective. So if you've got an objective on your resume, it's fine. I think for me personally, when I think about the objective, this typically says looking for opportunity in X. That's wonderful. But when we think about when you want to have a master resume, which is really just who you are and your entire job history, experience, volunteer experience, internship experience laid out, I don't want to see your objective. I want to see who you are. So instead of putting an objective, I would add a professional summary. Now, this professional summary on your resume is 2 to 3 sentences about your background. Another good opportunity here, deep diving a little bit backwards, is LinkedIn, your summary that you can add there. That's a great way for you to be creative and share what you want to share. Feel free to look at mine if you need some tips and tricks. Formatting. So there's so much that goes on around formatting. I see so many resumes on a daily basis. It's really interesting to see the different resumes that come across my desk. Formatting does matter, but it doesn't need to be over the top. So what I mean by that is that your resume should be readable, which means that I should be able to know where you've worked, what you did there, what's your contact information, and if you went to college, if you have an education background, then that should be on there as well. I should be able to read it easily within 10 seconds. A couple things I'd remove: your picture. If you put your picture on your resume, it creates bias for the person that's looking at it. And that's something that I really want to make sure that I get across, how important diversity is for me. Bias in the interview process, it's real, unfortunately. And so any way that you can mitigate this bias when you're thinking about putting yourself out there online and through the job search is the best way you can do this. Let's see. So job descriptions. So when we think about job description is just something that's put online. It is something that we legally have to put out there. Some job descriptions are better than others. What I can tell you is there's probably always going to be a minimum qualification section. And so what that looks like is minimum qualifications are the bare qualifications that we need a candidate to have in order to get the interview. So if you're an entry-level job seeker, and when I say entry-level, I mean maybe just graduating university, 1 to 2 years of experience. If you're looking at a job description and under the basic qualifications, it says years of experience needed, 5+, I'm going to be honest with you, you're probably not a fit for that job. That's probably a more senior type of role. So think through the really basic qualifications, and when you're looking through the minimum qualifications, look at how you can frame your resume. So when I put out there that I need somebody that has a education in computer science, I'm going to want to see computer science on their resume. Or if they've worked in a certain tool, like experience in React, I'm going to want to be able to see React on their resume. It's kind of like a matching game because when we think about it, there's always this conversation around, recruiters are robots and we have somebody that's scanning your resume and we're able to weed out resumes. This is not true. And I apologize for laughing. I really, really try to mitigate these random rumors that I hear from job seekers because it pains me that this is kind of a reality for people. So when you think about this, we definitely have to have a way of tracking our resumes and bringing people into the system appropriately in order to kind of process them through the job search. of the job application. So we do have what we call an applicant tracking system, but what that does is it just kind of a customer management system where we just keep our data. And so when we think about that, when you apply to a job, your resume goes into that system, and then our recruiters we have to look at those resumes in order to make the decision about the applications. So just more of an FYI, when you're thinking about it, if you're going to be applying to roles, which I absolutely think that you should, take a look at those minimum qualifications and make sure that the like 80% of them are on your resume. And there's always a conversation around, if women, I think it was women will only apply to a job if they meet 90% of the qualifications on the job. I'm sorry. If you meet at least 50% of them, yes, absolutely put your application into the system, because what this looks like is we definitely have some minimum qualifications, but you're able to kind of pick and choose, and some of them are more important than others. The reality here is that there's an entire story behind that job description of what the hiring manager is really looking for, and us recruiters are the people that have to make sure that we are talking to them, understanding exactly what we're looking for, and then being able to weed out, so to speak, candidates in the mix. Now let's talk about Facebook specifically. So like I said, I've been working at Facebook for 4.5 years. I've always supported the same team. So here's where I'm going to be real with you all. There's about 2,000 recruiters at Facebook. So if you're not in my specific purview of data center strategy, I might not be the right recruiter for you, which is totally fine. What you should be doing is finding your person. And what I mean by that is it doesn't necessarily have to be a recruiter when we think about the job search. You could think about somebody that is somebody doing something impactful in your area, like a software engineer, manager, senior software engineer, that's, posts and has their own blog and does their own thing. And that's somebody that's really exciting for you to connect with. That's who you should connect with. You should absolutely build connections. I think now is a time where it's more important than ever to make sure that you're taking the time to kind of build your network. And adding people on LinkedIn it's not a bad thing to do. I think that when you are adding people, making sure that your message to them is crafted and tailored, and you're not just asking for something. I think the reality is all of us are busy. We've all got a lot going on right now. And so being able to really help that person understand why you're reaching out, and what's interesting about it is the right way to go about it. The other thing is, not asking for something right away, right? So building that relationship, getting to know them better, what they do specifically at Facebook, what teams they support, or what teams they work in. That's building relationships. It can be as easy as doing a Zoom meeting on a bi-weekly basis, just for 30 minutes as a quick catch-up. That's how you build relationships. We do look at your resume. Like I said earlier, I do read resumes. And when we're thinking about Facebook specifically, we've got our values. And when you're going through the interview process at Facebook, we don't need you to memorize our values. For the record, I wrote them down. It's be bold, be open, build social value, focus on impact. And I added this one myself, but be yourself. I remember my Facebook interview so clearly because I had been interviewing for 3 months. I was out of a job. I didn't know what I was doing, to be honest with you. And I walked into that Facebook interview where I just put everything on the table. And I shared what my experience was. I shared who I was as a person through the interviews. And thank you, Facebook. That's what they wanted. And so I brought in Be Yourself because it's such a huge value for us, as well as, being able to work in the company and work on something that's so impactful across so many different, countries, people, how people use the platforms, is just really dynamic. So being able to tie your experience back to the mission of bringing the world closer together, is something that we definitely look for in interviews. So I want to take the time today to just talk through, lastly, that one rumor also that I know through the industry. Apologies, I need to have some coffee. Um, as you walk away from this conversation, I hope that you're empowered to be yourself, put yourself out there in the best way that you feel like you can online, through the different tools that we use for the job search. What I do want to share is that recruiters don't find jobs for people. We find people for jobs. And what I mean by that is when you're reaching out, if you're going to reach out to recruiters, understand that yes, their success is your success, but then there's also a lot that goes on behind the scenes. So hopefully these tips and tricks helped you today. Again, I am so happy to be supporting the Girl Code Summit. 3 years ago, some of the cohort came to Facebook in Menlo Park, and we had a great time showing them around campus. I really hope we can do that again as soon as all of this craziness is over. Thanks again for listening to me this morning on my end. If you have any questions, as you can imagine, I'm kind of an open book. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. Let me know that you watched this, and I wish you all the best of luck. Stay safe out there.